Today, let's just get into this topic that you and I have kind of talked about before, being that discipline creates confidence and not the other way around, meaning confidence does not create discipline. And I guess I just want to get like your first impressions, Ben. Like, I guess when we talked about recording this and talking about it, like what was your first impressions, first takeaways from that?
Yeah, I think that's it's a topic that I find very interesting because discipline's definitely something that I feel like is an important part of my life, but it's like why it's been important or what it has mean to me has changed over time, I think. I feel like the sort of first reading I did on discipline was like Jocko Willink's book. I don't know if you're
Oh
familiar,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
very
I've read that.
like army, like rah rah
Yes.
type stuff. But honestly, pretty like kind of profound in a way as well. And he had this sort of phrase, discipline equals freedom, which is interesting and it doesn't make a lot of sense on
Hmm.
the surface. But his point is like you don't control anything that happens to you. All you control is like your reaction to it. So the actual freedom that we all have as individuals is in that moment between like stimulus, like something happening to us, and then our response to it. And that's where discipline comes in because like if you're disciplined enough to control how you react to things, then you sort of have the freedom to choose how you go about your life. So I thought that was like a really interesting way to think about
Yeah.
it. And I think it's honestly super valid as well. So I think that's kind of that's a way that I've liked to think about discipline is that it's like a way that I can keep control over my life rather than just letting things happen to me and come to me.
Hmm.
I can sort of try to determine what is going to happen and what my outcomes are going to be to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, how about you? What have you felt like it means to you?
I feel like pretty similar. I've also read that book, and I kind of actually kind of rejected the narrative for a while there. I didn't really like the army style verbiage, but I think as the older I've gotten, the more I've understood how important discipline is. And just seeing like the benefits of that in my own life. Not necessarily like the idea of discipline, but much more of like the product when you notice it. So I was just kind of thinking of like I have been really practicing in my life a lot of like emotional well-being, and I would have to say I've had to be very disciplined about that. And that's kind of a different way. I feel like when young men usually talk about discipline, it's like get up at 5 a.m., go run, ice bath, sauna, whatever, eat good, work out. It's usually like a physical output, and that is really important too. I definitely understand discipline that way, but I much more have been working on like emotional discipline and being, I guess, present with either my feelings or like actionables with my emotions. So recognizing if I get upset, I want to appreciate that feeling and then understand why and be able to change course or just absorb it and not punish myself. So, but that takes discipline because there's a lot of times where it fluctuates. And if I'm not disciplined about my emotions and my well being, then a lot of other facets of my life fall off, like working out, work productivity,
Mhm.
diet. So for me, it's number one in my life right now, being almost 25, is emotional discipline.
Can you tell me a little more about what that means, emotional discipline? I don't think I've heard that term before.
Yeah, I don't think it's talked about quite a bit. That was like my first reaction, but I would say what it means to me at least is being very accountable with my well-being. And so that looks like, if I were to take you through the day of what that looks like for me, being that my emotional capacity is very important to me right now. And sometimes in my life it's not as important because I feel like I'm just kind of cruising. But right now in my life, I really have to be disciplined towards that. So what it looks like is and I wake up around, 6 before work. And the first thing I do is journal about how I'm waking up and whether it's like waking up with anxiety. And I don't tell myself anything. I just recognize. And then the next thing I do is I go through and do like a 2-minute round of breath work that one of these men's coaches taught me a couple years ago. And that really clears out my system for the day. I feel really clear after that. And then I'll just go eat. But those are the two necessities for me. And to tie in, that's like the emotional capacity. Now, after I've done that in the morning, I feel like I've built my capacity for the day, that I'm not reacting anymore. I'm taking control. And then after that, will the discipline tie in there is that I'm doing that every day. And it's a non negotiable for me. I have to do that right now. And it's not because I'm desperate for it, it's because I've noticed the productivity and the benefits and the positivity and the way I'm showing up in my relationship change significantly since I've been doing that. And so I would say that's kind of what that means to me is really just it's almost like I'm focusing on my emotional well-being, taking care of myself as if I'm planning to go run a marathon. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm almost regimenting it like this has to happen today in the morning. I need to make
Mhm.
time for that. It's like what people do when they're training for like a, I don't know, an Ironman. Like I got to go run whatever 6 miles.
Yeah.
And for me right now, it's I got to journal and I have to do my breath work and it sets me up. So I would
Yeah.
say that's probably what emotional discipline looks like for me right now.
That's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And I really like that framing because like you said, I feel like I understood discipline as just like the physical stuff. Um or generally still do kind of where it's like, yeah, waking up early, working out, eating well, that sort of thing. And I feel like that's definitely important, but like you said, you have to understand the why and like what am I is it serving me right now? I think is an important question to ask
Mhm.
because I've definitely had phases in my life too where I probably would have been better, definitely would have been better served, I think, to put more time and be more disciplined about what you just described rather than, the physical stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. And I like that term emotional discipline a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I think there's moments that I've had where I have lacked that, but at the time, maybe I needed to be more physically disciplined. I felt good, but it's just all about, like, honoring where you're at, and that's really all you can do, and encouraging young men to really honor where they're at is, I think, such a good step, but I do think that when coming back to discipline, having some sort of discipline to continue your journey towards like self mastery
Mhm.
is, I think, so important. Whether it's emotional discipline or say for you, like I want to turn it back to you in a second about what it's been looking like for you right now, currently. But some people may need to wake up at 4 a.m. and go on a run every day. That might suit their needs. So
Mhm.
not one way is better than the other, but I would say discipline is a non negotiable, especially for young men building their life. Because, like what we talked about, because me and Ben use the word stacking bricks. That's what we describe when we're working on stuff. And I feel like that the act of discipline is stacking a brick or bricks every day because you're building a huge foundation for your life. So I would say it's just so important, especially for young men. Like you have to be able to find some sort of discipline. Because that, like what you said earlier, it gives you control. And
Mhm.
when you feel control, I would agree with Jocko that it is freedom at the end of the day. I would agree with that.
He was right. He was
He was
right.
right. He
Damn
was
it.
right all along. Yeah. So
But
what is this? Oh, you got a question?
no, no, go ahead.
I was going to turn it back to you and just see what does discipline look like for you right now, and what's going well. Maybe what's something you could improve on. Just what resonates with you.
Yeah, I think I've had maybe like a similar experience to you. I just hadn't thought about it in the same terms.
Hmm.
But discipline in the past, I've kind of put into practice more in the physical stuff. So like waking up early, like running every day, that sort of like I've had periods
Yeah.
of time in my life where I've done that. But right now that's just not that hasn't worked for my life. Like I've been going to work early, so I don't really have time to, or I'd have to wake up ridiculously early to run before work.
For
Sometimes I'll
sure.
stay at my girlfriend's house, and that is important to me, and I'm not gonna wake up and go for a run there. So it's
Yeah.
just that like style, I guess, of discipline hasn't really been what I've needed currently. But I think that for me, is I've been able to like shift it a little bit, maybe without thinking, and just try to be disciplined about this, like the sleep I'm getting. getting workouts in like when and where I can. I definitely am still disciplined about getting in some sort of workout or at least movement every day
Mhm.
instead of like sometimes even if I'm busy getting home from work, if I only have 20 minutes, just doing a little something is important to me. And then prioritizing sleep has been really important to me because I've been busy and a little bit stressed out. So I feel like those have been the two ways that I've really tried to be disciplined recently. And that's
Mhm.
been, sleep and then just getting some sort of workout in, which in the past would have been I would have like looked at myself as soft if I'm not running like a
Yeah,
bunch of miles every day or something like that. But it's been what I needed right now, and I'm like feeling good, so I feel good about it. But it's definitely
that's cool.
changed over time, yeah, which I think is we all have to give ourselves the chance to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I like what you just said at the end there. Like it does change. It's not fluid, and I would like to argue it like you know I mean, there's some people like David Goggins is apparently waking up at 4 a.m. every single day, and that I guess works for him.
Yeah.
But I think for the general public, like it's all about those small things, like what we're saying. Sleep and getting some sort of sweat going for the day, and that's all you need. And that is, I mean, that's by definition, I would say, like discipline right there. You're valuing those things and you're seeing what's serving you and what's not serving you, and that not only simplifies your life, but also has something really reliable that you can count on.
Mhm.
I really like that. And I mean, the two examples we both just said are ones that are not big show, like big gains, whatever,
Mhm.
huge pectoral muscles, and stuff like that, which is great. No hate. Like, of course, you and I both love to work out and stuff, but it's often represented that way for men is working out. And so I think, I mean, we could even get into this just about like gym culture and discipline,
Mhm.
knowing that once you dive super deep into gym culture, discipline is a big part of that. But there also has to be like some sort of, at least for me, a balance of that. So it's like I can go to the gym for an hour, but that's not my only one and only discipline. Because I think we like to talk about self mastery a lot and how you can work towards mastering yourself, and that I think that's important to me. And so I think discipline has a lot of key components to that. It's daily, it's actionable, it's reliable,
Definitely.
it looks
Yeah,
different for everybody.
I would agree. I think like you said, if you're thinking about sort of self mastery, discipline is a key part of it. And I also, even though I think it's important to think about why you're doing something, at least for me to think about like how is this serving me in terms of like a habit or something that I'm doing. Like a totally valid answer to that is just like I said I wanted to do something, so I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
I think that that's a totally valid answer to why you're being disciplined about something. Because I think, like, I did a little bit of research as you did to prepare for this, and the idea of self-efficacy, I think, versus self-confidence is
Mm,
interesting and helps me kind of conceptualize this. Um, but it's like confidence is a hard thing for me to wrap my mind around and like to define sort of. But self-efficacy is a little bit easier, which is just the idea that like my actions are going to have an effect on the outcome of
mm,
whatever I'm doing. And I think that if I say I'm going to do something, like I say like something super simple, like I'm going to wake up and make my bed every morning, and which I don't do by the way, but this is just an example.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something maybe I should do, but this is just an example. But if I say that and then I'm disciplined about it and I do it every day for however long, like you were just talking about, that's just a way to start stacking like really small bricks to make it feel like you have more control and your actions have more control over like the outcomes in your life. And obviously, like making your bed is that on a tiny scale, but the point
Yeah.
is that I do think it's worthy to like the idea of just having discipline in a general sense in your life to start stacking bricks toward feeling more self-efficacy, I do think is important and valid.
Mhm. I really like that. I've never heard that comparison, but that makes a lot of sense because it is
Yeah.
really hard to conceptualize confidence.
Yeah, I think
Like
like discipline and confidence are often yeah, like you were mentioning, kind of thought of together. But yeah, for me, I think the idea of efficacy is just easier to get
Yeah.
my mind around that relationship
Yeah.
a little bit. But
Yeah. I agree. I like that a lot. And what struck me when you said that is that when you're doing that, I feel like there's an adjacent benefit that's coming along with that. And that's like you really start to believe in yourself and trust yourself more. So you start to build like an internal reward system that I'm following through with what I'm saying I'm going to do. And that will have a great trickle down effect to everything else in your life. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to make my bed every day and you do that, it may not look big or some sort of huge celebratory thing, but your body is, I think, recognizing and yourself, you're recognizing within yourself that your body's going to start rewarding yourself for following through when you say you're going to do something. And that is such a big key because you're not performing for anybody else. And making the bed is such a good example because that's not for anyone else but yourself.
mhm,
And no one else is going to really see that. Maybe our girlfriends will. Well, like I sleep in the same bed as my girlfriend, so we both make it, but it's like it's really for yourself, and so being able to build those internal reward systems, I think it's so valid and it's so crucial at this time of life, being a young man in your 20s. If you're able to build that up, then I would say you're performing less and you're actually developing yourself more, you know?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that framing because yeah, I feel like often when it comes to like discipline and confidence, a lot of it can be performative. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's even advice that people give and get, which is not bad, but like the idea of like fake it till you make it or whatever,
Yeah.
which can be true. But I feel like, yeah, the idea that confidence comes after you do whatever you need to do is like, or it comes from faking it or whatever is like a little bit backwards. And you just have to, confidence comes like after you start stacking all those little bricks and actions
Yeah.
over time. But what do you think how do you think that you identify the ways that are best for you to be disciplined depending on like certain times of your life for you? You're like,
That's
how
what
have you
yeah.
identified when to change it and when it evolves?
That's a really good question.
We'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, put me on the spot. I would say, like, I'm just thinking back to when I was, like, 18, 19, just graduated, and I was in AmeriCorps. It was, like, a service program, and it was really isolated. It was, like, a really isolated, I had to hike 2 miles to, like, contact anybody outside of my team. Like, we were really isolated and just working all day, and I'm just thinking about was, like I was like a cross country machine. Like I was running, dude, I ran like this. I was like, you know what? There's like another town. Like, I don't know how far it is, but I know there's another town and I'm just going to run to it. And so I ran, it ended up being 17 miles. And
Jeez,
dude, I didn't have any
that's crazy.
water. And I'm not
Oh
trying to,
my god,
and I
dude,
was just
you're
like,
an animal.
I was bonking, dude. I wasn't even running at the end. I was crawling pretty much.
Yeah,
I Yeah, it was crazy. But I remember obviously I would never do that again. With I would do it if I was calculating it and, drinking water and stuff.
yeah,
But I'm just thinking back, like I was so disciplined on running. I just could not stop. I would wake up. I was craving my next run
hmm
and I needed it because it was like a good enough release for me to feel stable enough to be like that isolated. I felt like I was pushing myself so much
hmm
physically that I was releasing every other anxious thought I was having about that I'm stuck up in North Dakota with people I just met and working all day, not any close to anybody I know. So I'm just thinking like that. I needed that because it just I don't know. There wasn't like a message where I was like, let me go through the list of things of discipline actions and which one will I want. It was like
yeah, yeah,
I'm just going to keep running and see until I don't anymore, you know?
yeah.
And so it's kind of just like I would say it's just kind of listening to yourself and I encourage anybody I can to get like some solitary time during the day. I like to get in the
Mhm.
mornings because I was clear enough in my brain and my body to know that running was actually really benefiting me. It was giving me
Mhm.
something. It was like what you said, serving. But today, if I was like, you know what, this weekend on Saturday, I'm going to run 17 miles in the desert, that would obviously really mess me up for a couple
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
It would not benefit me at all, you know, and it
Yeah.
would be really weird. So that's kind of a weird example, but I would say like on what to do with that is is give yourself enough time in the morning or whenever you get or at night before you're going to bed of I guess listening to yourself, being like, what am I
Mhm.
needing right now? What is going to benefit me? What is going to stack a brick, not take three off of the
Mhm.
foundation I'm building, you know? So I would say that
I really
for the
like that
question.
example. Yeah. I really like that example actually, because I would agree. I don't. I feel like as my idea of discipline in my life has evolved, I definitely haven't sat down like you said with a checklist and been like, all right,
Yeah.
what's it going to be for the next like
Yeah.
3 months
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. But it totally is just, yeah. I think giving yourself time and like the space without to be like by yourself, solitary time, and like to be just let your mind kind of wander and actually think about what's working in your life right now, what you're enjoying, what you're hating. Like
Yeah.
that's a good point. That's a good way to do it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That was it for me. What about you? Do you have do you agree or is there
Yeah,
something
I
else in
definitely
there for
agree.
you?
I feel like yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a balancing act or
Hmm.
a dance because I think there's like a I like to think about sort of what am I enjoying and then like what am I not enjoying and what should I be doing from each of those? So like there are obviously if I'm really enjoying something like if I'm enjoying something that's great for me, like running is a great example, then I'm like, hell yeah, that's great. I'll be disciplined about running every day for however long, like all summer or something like that. But then on the flip side, if there's something I'm really not enjoying, like I mean it could be running. If it's like, wow, I'm really just not enjoying this anymore, it might be like, okay, I'm gonna kick that out for now. But there's
Hmm.
also, like, a line where it's like, you obviously don't wanna, like, only ever do things that you enjoy and never do things that
Super
are
true.
hard. So, I think it's a balancing act of, like, me just trying to figure out what it is right now that's good for me that I'm enjoying doing, and then doing as many of those things as I can, and then I guess trying to evaluate, like, the stuff that I don't really enjoy doing that much, but is good for me, and
Hmm.
then picking some of those out and, like, staying disciplined about those. So,
Yeah.
I feel like right now it's a gorgeous day. Like running is super easy. On a day like today, I like enjoy it a lot, so that's super easy. But meal prep, just to take a random example, I don't really enjoy doing that very much. Like that kind of sucks, but I need to do it before the work week. So that's another thing that I'll find time to do this
Hmm.
weekend, even though I don't really want to. So it's like kind of a long answer. There's not like a clear and easy way to do it, but that's kind of like how I think about it in my mind.
Yeah. And you know, like everything you just said, like it kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning of this when you said like what is like your why? Like you need to know the why.
Hmm.
And I think that is what you're saying. Like you literally just said it with meal prep. Like obviously you don't want to do it. It's not that enjoyable. But the why is because your week is gonna like be so much better nutrition wise, food wise, because you did it.
Hmm.
And running, it's like, yeah, it may serve you now, but if there was a moment where you couldn't see your why anymore every day,
Hmm.
it's like
Hmm.
maybe that'd be time to reflect and see maybe
Totally.
this is not serving me anymore. So you were saying like it's not an exact, but you already said it, like the why. You need to
Yeah.
have your North Star.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's like a way better summary of what I just said. Yeah, that's
Yeah, but you said it
exactly
earlier.
put it in my
I
own
just
words.
told you
Yeah,
what you said.
that I just forgot about. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's a
that's
great point.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
dude.
mean, it's interesting. I think that's just so important is just having the why. What's your why? You know, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
I mean, we've talked about this with AVENTYR, why? And that I think
Yeah.
got us through, I wouldn't say it was obviously rough, but switching our we had so many like different modes of Aventyr for a while there, and it felt pretty
Mhm.
chaotic. But I know that we both knew the why in it, and we were following that North
Yeah.
Star. And no matter how hard it got, we were like, we want to support young men as much as we can. And if nothing comes of it, at least we gave it a best shot. And
Exactly.
that's kept us going, you know? So if you're I mean, for any young man out there, if you're struggling on something, or you're really dedicated to working out or running or becoming a better boyfriend, you need to understand the why in that, because that's going to give you the energy when you have zero. It's going to give you that 10% more energy to push through for that moment. Because if you don't have a why, like, why should I stop drinking? Why should I, whatever it is, why should I go get sunlight every morning? If you don't have
Mhm.
that, it's going to drop off, because motivation is like temporary
Mhm.
and confidence is temporary. But coming back to discipline, I think, having discipline, you have to have your why, or I like to say your the North Star. Like, what am I following and why am I doing this?
Totally.
And so
Yeah.
I would say that's, if I were to give a little like motivation there for anybody listening or just for ourselves, I always have to remind myself, like, this is why I'm doing this. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
going when I absolutely did not want to, you know? It was like, you got to
Totally,
keep
dude.
going. So
Yeah. No, that was really well put. That was beautiful. Yeah, well said.
thanks.